Yo, this is DJ Atoyu Many. Welcome to Yankee in Japan. One American, many stories, all from the land of the rising sun. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned. Yo. This is DJ Atoyu Many, an American Yankee in the land of the rising sun. You know, if you guys were ever to hang out with me here in Japan, you would notice I get a good amount of double takes from Japanese people. There might even be a couple of laughs. Now, is it my face? Nah, probably not. I don't think so. It's not that. More than likely, it's my Japanese dialect, the way I speak, specifically the Hiroshima dialect. You know, for being such a small island country, Japan boasts a lot of different dialects, and some of them are so different from standard Japanese, you might as well be speaking Swahili to an Englishman. Yes, they are that different. In other words, it's like a completely different language. You know, one of the first things Japanese people notice when I talk is how I refer to myself. It's the pronoun I in English. So in standard Japanese, the most common way to talk about yourself is watashi. That means I, right? But nah, me, I'm different. I always have been, I always will, and I can't change no matter how much I try. I'm different. I call myself washi. It almost sounds like watashi, right? But the nuance is different. See, watashi is just me. It's for anybody. Anybody can use that. It can be a man, it can be a woman, a child, an old man, an old woman, a samurai, what have you, whatever. But to most Japanese people, washi conjures up images of old men, like a farmer or a fisherman. The grizzled old man in the farm. That's washi. But the thing is, I'm a 31-year-old black man from North Carolina. So imagine someone from, say, Southeast Asia talking like he grew up in the Bronx. It's like that. In the US, it's actually quite possible that that could happen, maybe. But in Japan, it's not that common, right? I'm just using that for an example's sake. In fact, I have gotten used to speaking the Hiroshima dialect so much that I have to consciously switch to regular Japanese, and even then, I tend to mess up sometimes. That's just how I am. I've gotten used to speaking a dialect. But first of all, why on God's green earth does an American Yankee from below the Mason-Dixie line speak a dialect from a town he ain't even from? That is the mystery you all want to know, right? Because after all, in university, my Japanese teacher taught me standard, polite Japanese. And that's called Hyojungo in Japanese. Hyojungo is standard Japanese. So again, why Hiroshima? Are you ready for another story, children? Well, let's go back to my days on the tiny, teeny island in the middle of nowhere in Ehime, Japan. Let's call that island the Lonely Island. So when I first moved to the Lonely Island, I had quite a lot of Japanese knowledge under my belt. But let me tell you, the first 3 months were hard because I could hardly understand what these people were saying. And only afterwards did I understand why. They were using a dialect, Hogen in Japanese. Dialect means Hogen in Japanese. So imagine this, folks. If an exchange student moved to your local area and you know they are not a native English speaker, would you shower them with your local dialect? I mean, they probably struggle to understand basic English, let alone a dialect, and slang and all kinds of other idiosyncrasies in language. But the people of the Lonely Island spoke a mix of different dialects. First there was Ioben, that's the Ehime dialect. There was also the Hiroshima dialect, Hiroshima Ben, and a teeny tiny little bit of Kansai Ben. So that's the area around Osaka, Kyoto, Wakayama, if you know that place. So Kansai Ben, the Kansai dialect, is actually very well known and is probably one of the most popular dialects of Japan. Maybe you've even heard of it. I don't know. Of course, the people of the Lonely Island just took their dialect for granted, as we often do. It was part of their way of life. They didn't know any other way to speak, perhaps. Fair enough. Do you guys remember my episode, The Legend of Merlion? The day of the festival. You remember the festival, right? The one where I threw up all over the place and soiled holy ground. It was during that time that I finally understood what people were saying. A friend of mine kept ending his sentences with this weird word, can, and yakan. What is this guy saying? Blah 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 can, blah 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 yakan. What is can? What is yakan? So at last, I finally asked, dude, what in the world is can? And my friend told me. He told me that ken is the Iyo dialect for standard Japanese's node or kara, which means so or because in English. So in my class, when I was a university student, my Japanese teacher might say, "Ashita wa testo desu kara benkyou shite kudasai ne?" In the Iyo dialect, they might say, "Ashita wa testo yaken benkyou shite kudasai ne?" Did you catch that? It was so simple. Just one word, ken, yaken. But it was so cool. I don't really know how to explain it. I finally had another way to express this language I had been studying forever. I mean, it blew my mind. Sometimes it's the simple things that really take us by surprise. I had no idea there were other dialects outside of Kansai and Okinawa. So Hiroshima Ben, the Hiroshima dialect, yeah, it's actually pretty similar to Iyo Ben. Probably because it's geographically close to Ehime. So I decided to start using dialect from that day forward. And the Lonely Island, hey, they got a real kick out of it. So as time passed, I added different words to my repertoire. I was just having fun. After all, I'm a wordsmith. I collect words. That's what I do. And what's more, I've never really been like people around me. So most foreigners stick to standard Japanese, but to me that was just cliche, man. What a snore fest. Where's the fun in that? Why not make language more personal? Make it your own. That's what we do in our native language, right? So why not do it in your L2, your second language? You feel me? Of course, don't get me wrong, there's times to use standard Japanese, but when you are hanging out with friends, you know, just hanging around, not talking about anything, why not use a dialect? It's cool. It's like choosing your language identity. Like adding some Emerald Lagasse BAM to your cooking. BAM, BAM! Ya can, BAM! You feel me? So turn that born right bread lunch into PB and jelly with some habanero sauce or something. Just spice it up, you know? That's my take on language. And yet, the original question remains unanswered, right? Why do I use the Hiroshima dialect despite living in Ehime? So I told y'all I lived on the lonely island, right? Lonely. What made it so lonely? It was in the middle of nowhere, first and foremost, and the only way off or to it was by boat or swimming. And I hate to break it to you, but your boy can't swim. I gave up on that a long time ago. So every weekend I escaped from Alcatraz by going to different places. Often Hiroshima Prefecture, which was only one boat ride away. And the last stop was this island called Enoshima, a much bigger island than, well, the place I was living, you know? And this island is actually pretty big. It's actually the birthplace of this Japanese band called Porno Graffiti. Now, don't ask me about the name, ask them. It has nothing to do with pornography or graffiti, but that's the name they chose. So as Enoshima is part of Hiroshima, I could easily go to different prefectural cities, including Hiroshima. After making friends with Hiroshima people, I started to pick up on their accents. Okay, so now you feel me, we're going to this dialect thing again. One of the most common and easily recognizable words they use is ke or jake, which means because or so. Remember ken and yaken? Yeah, they sound kind of similar, right? If I say, for example, in Japanese, koko ni daremo inai kara samishii desu, I'm lonely because no one is here. In the Hiroshima dialect, they might say, koko ni daremo oran ke samishii. You note that difference there? And I don't know why, but I felt an attraction to Hiroshima. Maybe it was the history between, well, my country and Japan. Very dark history. It amazed me how, during World War II, the things that happened, I don't have to mention them, the bomb, the tragedy, the hell, the loss. I mean, I saw pictures. I went to the site where they dropped the bomb, and I entered the museum. The memorial about that place, and man, it was heavy. It was heavy. It sent me to tears. I would never go in there again. One time is enough. And you look at that history, and you look at it now, and man, just the change is amazing. The change is amazing. It really is a testament to what we can do as human beings if we put our minds to it. And I see that they're so faithfully dedicated to peace, and it's an amazing place, it really is. So maybe that was part of the reason why I felt an attraction to Hiroshima. Maybe also it was just part of the convenience. It was maybe just because it was close to me. After all, it was close to travel to, you know? In fact, after my job ended on the lonely island, I ended up moving to Hiroshima. Now, I only lived there for 6 months, but my relationship with Hiroshima actually spanned my days in Ehime too. You know, considering how I escaped there on the weekends. And you know, the funny thing about the kanji, or the Chinese characters used to write Hiroshima, is that they literally mean wide island. So hiro comes from hiroi, which is wide. Shima means island, so wide island. Technically, Hiroshima is part of the mainland of Japan, so it's not an island, but you know, that's the name of it. The lonely island was a tiny island, very tiny island, of about 120 people, and an even larger population of wild boars. More on that later. Only after I traveled to the much wider area of Hiroshima, the wide island, did I expand my group of Japanese friends and experience so much more. So I am forever in gratitude and in debt to the prefecture of Hiroshima and its beautiful people. And even to this day, I still collect bits of different Japanese dialects. If you'd like to learn more about the Hiroshima dialect, Hiroshima band, feel free to drop a comment in the comment box. I am waiting for you. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and our time has flown. That's it for today. Thanks for coming out today, y'all. Yankee in Japan's intro music was Hard Soul by Ryini Beats. Today's background music was 90s Freestyle, as well as And Baby, in This Moment, We Exist by Yusei. And lastly, Mr. Hyde by Rosie, a good friend of mine. Check out Rosie on his SoundCloud. That's R-O-Z-Y, Rosie. And I'll see you next time.